Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our monthly awareness talk with Mind Story. My name is Charlie. I'm a registered counselor for Mind Story. Okay, so before I start, I'll make a little introduction about Mind Story. So in Mind Story, we provide services for children that have experienced academic delays, sensory delays, developmental delays, behavioral and emotional difficulties, as well as physical delays. Okay, our team is from different background or multiple disciplinary. So we have academic support, which is children, teachers with special needs teacher. We have behavior therapists, a clinical psychologist, a counselor, occupational therapist, reading therapist, as well as a visual therapist. Okay, you can contact us at this number or email and WhatsApp us for any inquiries. You can WhatsApp us, and our operating hours is Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We open on Saturday and Sundays via prior appointment only, and we are closed during the public holidays. You can check us out at our Facebook page for any latest update about our awareness talk. You can check out our website, Instagram, as well as LinkedIn. Okay, so today I have a special guest, Ms. Desiree. She is the person in charge for Project Haans. So today we were going to talk about her sharing as a parent who experience having a child with autism. So she'll be sharing a bit about what is Project Haans and also a bit about herself. Hi, good afternoon, Ms. Desiree.
Hi, Charlie, and thank you, Mind Story, for inviting me to do this session today. Good afternoon to you.
All right. So first of all, we would like to know what is Project Haans?
Okay, before I can start talking about Project Haans, I think I just give a little bit of background about how it came about. Presently, Project Haans, to give you the quickest answer so that the audience understands, it's a website. It is a website which has information. It has list of resources and services and centers for special needs here in Malaysia. And it has a collection of articles on neurodiversity. I'm personally very passionate about the articles, which I'll tell you about in my story. So my background actually for over 8 years before I had my son, I was in PR and communications. So PR writing is something that I've always carried with me throughout my life. I enjoy writing. So which is why Project Haans, the section on articles, is something that I'm very passionate about. And yeah, so my son Haans, hence the name Project Haans. My son Haans was born in 2015, and at the age of 2, he was diagnosed with autism or ASD. And to get a bit more technical, I know parents out there, you totally understand your children's levels, right? So my son at the age of 2 was diagnosed at level 2. He was nonverbal, so he was said to have challenges with communication, speech, and socializing. Right, so he was diagnosed quite early. We were quite lucky. We got an early appointment with Dr. Subhashini Dayanath. I think she will be speaking here on Mind Story towards the end of the month. Make sure you catch her. She's awesome. Yeah, so after that, so after a diagnosis, usually what we get is just a piece of paper or something that doctors tells us, hey, you know, your child has autism, you need to go and get speech therapy, occupational therapy, EIP, early intervention program, or get them in a typical kindy, but with all these other things. And so that was something quite brand new to both my husband and me, right? And like I was sharing with Charlie just before we started, I think one of the key things we always hear from parents is the denial phase upon getting a diagnosis, which I can totally understand. When we are unprepared for this kind of news, everyone deals with it in very different ways. There's no right or wrong way, right? For some people, going through that denial is necessary to get to the point where we put our child first. So with my husband and I, the denial wasn't an issue. We were, in a way, for me, I'm going to speak on behalf of me, I was relieved that I finally knew what exactly it was that made my child different. because I saw him spinning and flapping and doing all his stims, or like sunrise parents like to call it isms. He did it so very joyfully. And in me, I thought, okay, it may look odd to people, but he's doing it with so much of fun, right? So how wrong can it be? And so with the diagnosis, I finally understood, hey, okay, autism. And then is when it hit me that I really didn't know much about autism at all, right? And then I had all these new things to learn, like what is speech, what is OT, what is EIP, what is IEP, all these various abbreviations, right? And it was very hard for me to find information that was useful to my specific situation, because as we all know, autism is a spectrum, right? So what works for maybe a friend's child does not work for my son, right? Behavioral therapy may work for some children. In my son's case, no, he responds better to a play-based approach, right? So it's very different. So learning all these things actually was my toughest challenge, and it made me very angry, right? Because I came from a career where, when you work in PR, when you work with a client, you need to sort of become an expert on that subject matter, right? So now here I am, a mom, a first-time mom, and then I was trying my best to be like mom who knows everything about her child, and then suddenly I got thrown this, okay, it's autism. So now what do I do, right? So finding information was really, really tough for us. Google is such a scary place sometimes, I mean, there should be a limit on how much information you can Google in a day, I think, because it can be quite scary. So which is what actually eventually prompted me to start Project Haans, the website. So what I had the privilege of doing was, because I run my own business, my husband also runs his own business, I have a good family support around me. So I actually went out and visited various centers across Klang Valley, at least 10 or 15, right? And in meeting people was where I actually found out what exactly occupational therapy is, what exactly EIP is, and what exactly speech therapy is. By meeting people, going to centers, visiting, getting the information. And then, finally, we found things that suited our circumstances and our situation. And then it dawned on me that I needed to know more. So I decided to go and do my master's in special education, which I've since completed. And I realized one of the biggest gaps is that there's no one place parents can go to find all these resources. Like, what kind of online trainings can I do? Where are the free trainings? Where are the paid trainings? It's always support groups are fabulous. We have some really, really good support groups. Like Autisma Malaysia Facebook group is great. The minute you ask a question, I guarantee you get responses instantly, right? There's another group called PSG, that is consisting of all various special needs kids parents. They are awesome as well. And in fact, the lady who runs PSG, she compiles her own curated list of specialists, intervention centers, dentists who are special needs friendly, so, and she compiles it very specifically based on good feedback that she's received. So the minute she gets negative feedback, they go out the list, right? So and then there are so many online other lists as well. I know in Johor they compile their own. I recently got one from Penang, but see, everyone is doing their part. Everyone's doing their part to create this whole list of resource, but there is no one space where people can get all this information. So which is what I'm really trying to do on the Project Haans website. So that's why one part of the website is list of resources. I call it resources because it's not just list of centers. Yes, there's a list of centers, but there's also other things. So like, for example, there's this place called Ability that does a lot of free online Zooms where they teach you various things and various techniques for all types of special needs, right? And then there's also the paid ones that you can attend, like Sunrise or Hanan, More Than Words. So I try my best to list resources. Eventually, I'm hoping to also, update it with books that are useful that you can read, to help you along your journey. So that's one part of the website, the list of resources. Then the collection of articles, which I'm quite passionate about that part, is I like to tell stories from people who are actually living living it, right? Living the experience. So I've had autistic adults contribute their stories. I even have people adults who were late diagnosed ADHD contribute their stories. So it's a mix. So I have my own stories there. I even take from centers like Mind Story. I've taken from other private centers, both here and from overseas. Taken from their blogs and repurposed it so that people get the information. Basically, having articles written from actual practitioners' perspective, actual parents, actual self-advocates' perspective. So that's the other part of the website. So I'm going to stop for a bit and see if Charlie has any questions for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great because this is the thing that in my story we try to provide as many education as possible because from my experience working as a counselor, I do see this a lot of barriers, okay, a lot of difficulties. I used to work in a private, liaise with a private hospital and clinic, mostly very clinical based. Most of the time, when a patient or client approach me, they are already in a stage where it's very hard to work with. Okay, either they are quite old or their situation getting not progressing in a way that the developmental gap is quite huge. This is where parents find it quite frustrating because they couldn't get info that's available. So that's why I couldn't agree more. Like it's important for us to provide this kind of education because being a clinician or a mental health professional, I can only see from my point of view. But being a counselor, also we are taught to work with the community or work with what the parents have. Like we want to promote strength, find the strength in parents, and we want to grow it. Okay, because when we talk about children with special needs, it's not as easy as ABC. You know, is ABC okay, but then uh, we have a lot of things that are affecting parents. Okay, parents is a group. Okay, especially in our community in Asian family. Okay, it's we are collectivists. We are all in a group. So when we want to make a decision, it's a group decision. So a lot of these things, from my experience working as a mental health professional, I find it quite hard to approach individually. Okay, I have to approach them as a group. So when I attend to a family, it's really the whole family members. And then, I have to take into consideration what are the difficulty of each parent. Because in around Klang Valley, most of the parents are working parents. So we cannot have like, okay, let's say you have to do therapy Tuesday in the morning, but both parents are working. So how can we go about it? So this is where uh, one of the barriers that I experience with parents, and secondly, one of the biggest, but it's hardly talked about, is burnout. In fact, last week I have, I think last week, yeah, I have online sharing about burnout with one of my colleagues. You can check out in our Facebook page. Parents, by the time they approach me, they already are tired. I wouldn't say extremely, but they are tired, fatigued, because everything is already overboard. Okay, financially overspent, logistically everywhere around just to get the right intervention. They just couldn't sustain it anymore. It's not sustainable in long term. You might be able to do it 2 to 3 months or 2 to 3 years, but we're talking about like long years, the coming years. So that's why we want to invite as many professionals in this field, okay, to share it out to as many parents as possible. Because like Miss Desari, a lot of parents that I see, they are first-time parents. Sometimes, other than burnout, which you know greatly affect their mental health and physical health. And then that's where a lot of self-blaming coming in. So this is where I help parents in a way that, most of us are first-time parents. We were not taught at school how to take care of our children, and we all work in different fields. We are not in the medical or health sciences, so we wouldn't know what we are facing. And then we require information, and sometimes due to the lack of health professionals or specialized professional in this field in Malaysia, we do not get the information that we want, and it requires a lot of trial and error and traveling, like yourself, Mr. Sari, where you have to visit multiple centers in order to get to know what is OT and what is not. But actually, if you see in the overseas model, normally they have counselors, you have schools counselors, you have, but then because, mental health is a stigma in Malaysia. So when a lot of parents, when they first time see me, they're like, "Well, Charlie, you work with people with mental, right? But my child is not, or I am not someone who with mental." But actually, counselors, they work closely as a community or a registered or practicing counselors. Any counselor outside you can see, our job is to promote healthy mental health well-being and practices at home, and also we provide guidance there's a lot of guidance, like in terms of intervention planning or how to plan for your children special needs. Okay, it's a very specialized area, but most of the counselors they provide information. They will look for information. This is, and then they will share it to you. And also, we work around a lot with parents, and groups or individual who has difficulty in terms of like, I'm tired, I'm stressing out with my child. Okay, but it's a stigma and it's impacted on parents' well-being. And this is information that I always channel out as much as possible, like Project Haans, Mind Story. These are the places where we try to make information as available as possible, but and also try to bridge in the gap, okay, the barriers. Okay, recent research from one of the university in Malaysia show that number one barrier is information, lack of information, where parents don't know where to go, what to do. Okay, so that's why we have this platform like Project Hunts. Okay, it's just that sometimes we have to make use of the current trend, the technology, where everything is available online. Okay, and this is where it also is important for me because I normally invite a lot of health professional, but this time we're able to invite Ms. Desari to share her journey as a parent, because sometimes it's easier to relate to another parent, and then also I've met a lot of parents who have difficulty voicing out. So hopefully when Ms. Desari here is to share her journey, which is can help us to spread out the words to other parents who are experiencing a similar situation. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Charlie. Yeah, exactly. I agree with so many of the things that you said. So things like I heard when you said, how working parents is a challenge to send their kids out for therapy. The hours, weekends are either fully booked or sometimes the pricing is higher than weekday therapy. Certain centers, if you go to, and normally there's long waiting lists if you want to do on a weekend, right? But another area which I'm really passionate about is also hopefully eventually influencing some policy, whether it's in the workplace or in the country, to help people who are neurodiverse get the support that they need. Because I think we have to realize with autism and all the other neurodiverse conditions as well, like ADHD, dyslexia, and all that, right? It is lifelong. It does not go away with intervention, right? And I think that's something that everyone has to come to terms with. So, at every stage of life, people who are neurodiverse are going to need some kind of support. So, for example, like you say, working parents, it would be nice if workplaces give them the allowance, okay, between, so you have two parents, right? So it doesn't mean that the same parent needs to go every week for the therapy. So you could give your staff, I don't know, an extra hour or two off, to go pick and send your kid and then work for the rest of the day at home. We did it for 2 years in a pandemic. Why can't we do it now? Right? Right. So I think those kind of allowances are so important. And when we have more people coming out telling their stories, sharing on platforms like this, it will push the needle a bit further. And I do know there are some private organizations that already do this. They give that allowance, allow their staff to go and send their special needs kids. They even give them allowances, extra allowances for therapy and all that. So it is already happening. But we need more of it. We need more of it, right? And burnout, right? Burnout is something that's so real. I think I've shared the good part of my story, but everybody has good and bad days. I'm not a fan of sugarcoating. In fact, today I had a terrible morning. Let me just tell you, I had a horrible morning because I stay in Shah Alam. My son goes for speech therapy in Brickfields, and it took me an hour and a half to get there today, right? And because the therapy is in slots, I was so afraid that we would only end up with like 15 minutes of our slot. And so as I was driving and communicating with the center, I don't know, I think luck was on my side today. The therapist didn't have a second slot after us. So we managed to push our slot and get the full 1 hour that we usually get, right? But yeah, it was a terrible journey because of the traffic jam, and I'm also having a migraine. As I sit here and talk to you, I am having a migraine, and then after the therapy, I have to give him lunch, and I normally pack his lunch, but today I forgot his fork and spoon, right? So how am I supposed to feed him soup with my hands, right? So I found a cafeteria next to the special needs center. I managed to feed him his lunch. Then I got him off to school, and then I had to make it back in time for this. So, so the burnout is very, very real. And so how I deal with it is I make sure that I have the support that I need and I speak up. I know with a lot of mothers, especially, we feel a lot of pressure to do everything, right? We want to do everything. We want to be super mom and all that. And I get that. I want that too, but sometimes I really need help. So sometimes it's about swallowing my pride and saying, hey, dear husband, I need help today. Can you pick Haans from school? And so we've got a good thing going. So my husband is very supportive. So like you said earlier as well, Charlie, you said it's when you see your clients, you see them as a family, right? And I think that's so important because the living situation and the living environment is very important. That's going to determine how effective the therapy or the intervention is, right? Because of the follow through at home. So in the early days, every time my son had an appointment, say with a doctor or an OT review or an EIP review, both my husband and I would sit in all the meetings, right? So just to ensure that both of us are giving the correct information, because he sees a different side of my son sometimes, and I see a different side of my son. So it's very useful to have the family unit in those meetings, right? And so what we also do is we take turns. So there are certain days, so like today I'm doing this, my husband will pick Haans from school, or there are days if I have something on, he will send and I will pick, so I think that's very important because burnout is very real. And the other thing that really helps me with my burnout is having my little tribes support, right? Family, of course, family is so important. My parents are very supportive. I have cousins, aunties, uncles who are also supportive, my nephews and all that. They're always there for me to listen. But sometimes it is also good to have connections with the family that you choose. And I say the family that I choose is also they are my friends who also have special needs kids, because no one will understand more than someone in that exact same boat. So I have my fellow Sunrise moms who we are trying to we train play buddies for our kids together. We're trying to form our own little whether it's a society or an NGO called Embrace Autism Malaysia. So we advocate for play-based approach for our kids, and hopefully we want to build a community, right, for our kids, because we're not going to be here. So we try to have play dates for our kids, with our kids, right? So even if they don't play with each other, they know each other and all that. So they have their own community. And then my other two good friends, Nori and Didi as well, we have our own, all of us, the three of us are advocates in our own way. So Nori has her kids gym, and Didi is she's the admin for Autism Malaysia Facebook. She's also working with various people who are trying to work towards making more autistic friendly cities in Malaysia, right? And then I do what I do in Project Haans. So I have this group of ladies as well. And so I think these little tribes that we have, it's so important to help with that burnout, because there are going to be days that, especially to parents who are new to this, there are going to be days where you're going to get up and you think, I can't do this anymore, right? But then let me tell you, when you go to sleep again that night and get up the next day, you can do it, right? And that's why it's so important to have these units, the family members that you choose, because these are the people who are going to get you when you say I can't do it anymore. They are going to be that shoulder you can cry on, and they're also going to be the ones that tell you, hey, you know what, 2 weeks ago that was me, so tell me how I can support you now. So the burnout is very real, but it's so important to have support and ask for it.
Yeah,
There's no stigma there.
yeah, yeah. I do agree. It's very important because one of the thing, and also if you see a counselor, you only see me once a week. But what we want to do is to establish a network of support because it's important, like you mentioned, necessary to have different because not all the time people are free. Like maybe today I don't have my relatives around, but I have my other friends. So because it's not easy to have this pent up emotion. Like I mentioned, it's in our culture that we we are not taught, or no one teaches us that to express our emotions and to seek help. So by the time we become a parent, we just we have all this, I can do it all by myself, all the pent up emotion, but it's not very healthy in a way. And sometimes some prefer to talk to someone they don't know, strangers like a counselor. Some they prefer to talk to someone they know or relative. But the most important thing is you have to establish these support groups. Okay, why? Because they are, like a train or like a fire lamp, oil lamp. They are the oil, and you are the burning lamp. So it's very important to have to be surrounded by people like this because a lot of some of the children or adults that have any type of disability, when I talk to them, sometimes they do express to me in a way that, actually they don't feel like they have disability, but they are disabled by the community. Okay, because I mean, I don't blame the community because we don't grow up with people who have disability, so that's why we say that, hey, why are you like this? And one of the things why people are fear or develop stigma is because of lack of information. We don't know about that person, so we tend to stay away. Okay, this is quite normal for human reaction. But as a parent, it's really important. Like, I guess sometimes, not all the time, um, when I share my thoughts, they'll be like, actually, you're not even a parent yourself, and or sometimes they're like, you don't have a child with special needs, you can say whatever you want. Okay, that's true. But the thing is, in this field, I do acknowledge this is the persisting issues that has been going for years, and I want parents to know this. Okay, it's not that I'm hired by someone or because I'm not a parent myself, but the most important thing is what we do, what we can do with what you have as a community. How else can we move on? Because if we keep dwelling in our own difficulties, it will stop us from looking for help, as well as the child needs intervention, but we couldn't do it. Okay, and this is a very important for parents to understand. Okay, it's okay to take one step at a time and slowly establish the foundation. It's like building a house. Before you build a house, at least you need to start from the foundation. Okay, to have a strong base, and then you build from there. You don't build the house from the roof towards the ground. It doesn't work that way. I mean, you can, but then I don't think it will last a long time.
Exactly.
Yeah, so this is the reason where we all, as a support group from different background, try to contribute to this community. Okay, we want by raising this awareness and sharing as much information as possible, others can learn, especially parents, because it's quite upsetting for me when I see a child is, by the time they come to see me, I'm not going to say that it's too late. It's just that the gap is wider because it depends on where you're from. If you're from a very secluded place in Malaysia, then late doesn't really applicable because there's a gap in terms of facilities and doctors around it. So I always tell parents that it's not about being late or not, it's about uh, how well you're able to uh, accommodate or change based on your situation, and also how well are you able to gather information as much as possible? Because if we just sit here and wait for others to feed, then it will be hard. And this is where we have to go out and start looking. And when we start looking for information, we have to know what type of information. Yeah. So that's why it's important to we have this talk once a month, okay? And also from a parent's perspective, like Mr. Sari, uh, if possible, you can share with us, initially when you know that your son is diagnosed, the difficulty of information, what's the process like until now, like as compared to last time?
Well, okay, so like I mentioned at the start, it was hard for me to find information that was, suitable for my specific situation. I've, of course, the first thing, since doctor said, okay, EIP and OT and speech, I went all out to look for all three all at once, right? Um, Only to realize, hey, he's 2 years old. Most EIPs would not accept him, and also at that time, I didn't know that he was just not ready for speech therapy, which also led me to have quite a number of bad experiences with speech therapy. So what we did was we started off with OT. After speaking to a few people, I was also quite fortunate, to meet other people along the way. Like, someone would tell me this person is a child psychologist, this person is a special need teacher and all that. Some told me some things which made me not want to ever call them back again. Like, why did you give your son the vaccine? It causes autism. So, I never called that lady ever again, because we know it's not the vaccines. But there was this other lady, her name is Sophia Vijayakumar. She's a child psychologist, but she wasn't attached to any center at that point of time. She is now, she's with a private center in Damansara. So she's a family friend. And so I used to text her whenever I had doubts, right? So having that person there for me, it was like a safety net for me. So I was quite blessed to have her, so anytime I text, she's so good. She'll just, respond and let me know, okay, me a speech. Because I had this person come to my house who said she was doing speech therapy, and she actually wasn't qualified to do speech therapy. And so when I spoke to my friend Sophia, who's watching now on Facebook, hi Sophia, she said, hey, this person with these credentials is actually not qualified to do speech. So that's why, knowing all these things is so important. So, backtrack to Haans at 2 years old. So what we did was started with more occupational therapy. So based on my reading and finding out from people, I realized that that's always the starting point. Because with OT, you settle a lot of the sensory issues. So Haans was very sensitive to other people, strangers, people he didn't know. The minute he sees someone he doesn't know, he would just burst into tears and cry, right? So that was one of the things. He hardly had eye contact. He never turned when we call him. Yeah, he had very poor attention span as well. So the OT actually settled quite a lot of that for him. So he at the age of 2, he couldn't even hold his bottle to drink milk. I still had to hold it for him. So with OT, they worked on the various senses and all that. So he said that within 2 months, he was already holding his own bottle to drink milk. His eye contact was better. But I must say, as a mom, okay, so we started OT at a private center for a month, and then I had some other challenges at home, family members who were ill, so I needed to take care of that. So I got a OT to come to my home. Her name is Teacher Ayuni. And she's still with us, by the way, Teacher Ayuni, if you're watching. So she has been with us since Haans was 2, and so they would have their therapy upstairs in his room, and I would be downstairs. And all I could hear for the first half an hour of every class is just crying and screaming, right? And it took everything in me not to burst into tears every time. But one day, see, I have goosebumps now. One day, I think it was about after 6 months, right? The crying just stopped, and I heard the most magical thing. They were both laughing. They were both laughing and having such a good time, and they had a good relationship, which they have right till today. We could see the progress. His senses were a bit more settled. Vestibular wise, he was a bit more balanced, less clumsy and all that, able to hold his spoon and fork. So she actually helped us prepare him. So he did OT at home twice a week. It started with 1 hour per session, and then over time we increased to 1 hour 15 till he could tolerate an hour and a half in the room with his OT. And then he managed to get into an EIP when he turned 3. That was 3 hours a day, but we still kept this OT on, so she would come over still twice a week. So he had 5 days a week of EIP and then 2 days a week of OT. Around that time as well, I attended the Sunrise program. It's a parent training. In 2019, they were in Malaysia, so I attended that. That really changed our whole family's perspective on autism as well, which we realized that a lot of it has to do with the environment that they're in. So while our house we thought was Haans friendly, it wasn't really Haans friendly, right? Because imagine if you were in your own home, right? And I tell you, hey, Charlie, don't do that. Hey, Charlie, don't do that. You're going to get so mad at me, right? And you're not going to want to be my friend. So that was one of the first things we did after Sunrise. We made this entire house Haans friendly. So there's nowhere he can go in this house that is restricted. Right? Things that he should not have, he doesn't even know where it is. Right? So it's safely kept away. We did the Sunrise program. Like I said, we had a couple of bad experiences with speech therapy as well. So I took it upon myself to just stop. So when I did the Sunrise, I told my husband, you know what, we're going to stop speech therapy because it's driving me insane, because we're just getting nowhere with speech therapy at that point of time. So now Hans is 7. He doesn't go to a government school. He's gone to the center that his OT, so the OT that used to come to our house, teacher Ayuni, she now has her own center. So he goes there 4 days a week. Plus he gets once a week speech therapy in Brickfields. I'm a Hanan fan, so she's Hanan trained. And we also do play buddy. So remember earlier I told you we train people to play with our kids. So Hans has true play buddy. So he does 2 to 3 sessions a week with them. So that keeps him occupied and entertained, I would say. I think for me, the most important thing is, because we're a Sunrise family and we see autism as something more of a social relational challenge, rather than a behavioral issue, we work more on the social relational aspect, which is why getting him OT, speech, which he's ready for now because he's very good at imitating now, and having those play sessions, right, really help with that social muscle, to help him with that social muscle. Now he's gone from this kid who didn't like strangers to a kid who is okay with strangers. A kid who wouldn't even look at another kid. Now he would actually go to another kid and pull them and try to play, right? And so my point is, we did everything. I mean, initially, yes, I was in a hurry to do everything. I had one of my cousins in Abu Dhabi, so she's Hans' godmother. So when I told her, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and she went, she's like, girl, can you like slow down? Just slow down and take a breath. And then I went, oh my goodness, yes. So, thank God for her. Took it one step at a time, right? Because like I said earlier as well, he is going to need lifelong support, right? So take it one step at a time and only do things when he's ready. Because even with us, right, neurotypical adults, if someone forces us to do something that we're not ready for, we're not going to like it. We're going to react in various ways. So imagine an autistic individual who maybe has challenges expressing themselves or saying things, right? And then you force them to do things that they're not ready for. That is your recipe for constant tantrums and meltdowns, right? So I always believe one step at a time, and take the cue from Hans, because people say, oh, you're the expert on Hans. And I always go, no, I'm the second, because Hans is the expert on Hans. I'm number 2.
So yeah, that's very good. Wow, you beautifully put the process of from getting diagnosed to intervention with your own experience. So this is the side where I want others parents to see. Okay, one of the most important thing is regardless what intervention, but the most important thing is you experience harms in a way that this doesn't work. It's okay. We don't need to like keep enforcing the same thing. There's a saying that if you keep doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results, that's insanity. So this is one thing that I always empower parents. Okay, you know your child the best. Do not look down on yourself because you know, like, okay, before the child throwing tantrum, you can see the pattern. We couldn't see as a professional. We just need to observe, but you can, okay, by knowing it, and then it's okay. Whoever that you try, it doesn't work with your child, it's okay. You can always try another one because this is the part. There's no straightforward. It's not like, oh, I have a headache, I take some Panadol and it's done. No. So this is the part where uh, Mrs. Harry Yoshi. It's not easy, but we have to keep going on and then take one step at a time and see what is best for not only for Hans, but as also as a family as a whole, you and a husband. Okay. Uh, uh, I just want to briefly talk about family. Okay, family is a system. Okay, you have subsystem. As a Asian family, a whole system including grandfather, grandmother. So when you start your own family, it becomes a subsystem of a system. So this is the thing where it becomes very delicate. But the most important thing is as a subsystem, husband and wife and child, we all, I mean, as a job of a counselor, also we try to help parents to see things collectively as a group. Because if you don't see things together, like what Miss Desari shared, that she and her husband has different point of view on the child. Okay, it can be I see my child. No, he's not throwing tantrum. Why? Because I give him phone, but my wife did. So we can see tantrum in both different ways. So it's very important, and this is something that all parents have. They know the child very best. It's just that when it comes to a certain diagnosis, it's normal for us to self-doubt because we don't have the information. Again, like the experience that Ms. Desiree shared, it's really good. Okay, this it's not every day Sunday. Definitely there's ups and downs. I guess she traveled. Like in fact, this morning she shared that she shut alarm to Brickfields. We all know how the traffic is going to be like, even though it's school holiday, but the traffic is not good.
And it was raining today.
Yes. Okay. So the most important thing is the process. The process of getting your child to get diagnosed by a doctors, and then from there you start to look for what is best for your child. Again, best doesn't mean like people say best is best because you need to best for your child. Best for others might not be best for your child. Okay, like what Miss Desiree said. And then she have to that's where she learned is the person is legit. Okay, it's properly registered under Malaysian board or some association or not. So this is part of the process. Okay, this is one of the reasons where Miss Desiree also shared that Project Hans. Okay, they share about centers, and then it is not about helping others to sponsor. Okay, Miss Desiree Hans is not with my story. Okay, we just share the same passion about helping other parents. Okay, that's the reason why we do this. Okay, and also to provide as many platform as possible to raise the awareness for parents because uh, autism and cerebral palsy is one of the biggest disability in Malaysia, but yet look at the intervention and the development of the infrastructure to support children like this is still uh, not on par with the current population that's having these difficulties. Okay, and but the most important thing is like what Ms. Desiree said, the process is not easy, but always bear in mind that this is we see it as a marathon. It's not 100 meter sprint because it's going to be long term. Okay, but what we want to do is how we can equip your child with a skill set that doesn't have. That's why they are different from others. Okay, if it doesn't fit in the social norm, so how else can we equip him to at least be on par. Okay, not exactly like many other kids, like what Miss Shari said. I see a lot of parents who have difficulty in terms of acceptance. Okay, they want to cure the child. They want to, they do intervention with the hope that the child can be cured or improved. Okay, yes, can be improved, but cured, no, we can't cure something that is biologically uh, uh, fuse in a way. Okay, like your brain, you cannot just go in, plug the wire, and plug in with others. Like your socket. Oh, blue wire to blue wire, green to green. No, we can't do that to the brain. We can't do that. But what we can do is provide a support group, and the process is not easy. Okay, hence we are here to try to let parents know, and then also we have someone like I've been looking for parents to share their experience, and finally I found one because it's really important. We always hear what the doctor said, but does this is where I stop for one and ask, have I ever heard what parents say before? Okay, I always hear uh, the professionals and other doctors talk about the child's difficulties, but let me put a pause and find a parent and we talk about, like, you can see both sides of the world. Okay, one is the health professional, one is parents. So we can see both sides of the world by hearing Ms. Desiree share about her process, because you can see her progress for Hans from 2 years old until now is 7. It's not an easy journey. Like she said, there's a lot of ups and downs. She said, share about support, how family members and her friends provide, and also therapy, okay, and also a child psychologist that support her during the way. Okay, that doesn't mean you need to find exactly the same like Han, but it's just that
Exactly.
she is
Correct.
sharing her journey and who are
Yes.
the person that helping her. Okay, so this is very important, and this is, like I said, beautifully worded. This is a very a nice example. It's not a testimonial. It can be for someone, but it's what her experience as a parent with a child with autism. I mean, it's very important that we share this out. Okay. So other than this type of difficulties, what other difficulties you face, like experience? I wouldn't say difficulties. Some can be good. Yeah.
I think the affordability factor is there for everyone, right? So when therapy is concerned, I mean, if you have the OKU card here in Malaysia, you get a lot of privileges. You get free therapy in the government hospitals and all that. But then again, waiting list is very long. I remember we did OT once in a government hospital, and let me just say lah, from parking to registration to getting to the OT's office, he was already in a meltdown, and I was in meltdown myself. So it was the first and last. But really, my heart goes out to people who don't have any other option. That's the only option that you have. So I would say, we make the best out of whatever situation that we are in.
Yes.
And I try my best to give my son the best of what we can afford, right? If I can't afford it, I'm going to find alternatives that I can afford. So yeah, affordability is definitely another issue that goes all around. Another thing that I want to also talk about is that, now that Hans is 7, right? So initially he was diagnosed in 2. So I thought, hey, early intervention helps, then he'll be fine. And then, okay, it's neurological, like you said, it's lifelong. And then so I thought, okay, never mind, early intervention, let's do lots of early intervention. But now he's 7, it's not early anymore, right? So it's still intervention that he needs. And next thing we know, it's going to be puberty, and then adulthood, and then working, but at the same time, we see so much of focus on children, right? So there's a lot more awareness now, there's lot more services, but everything is so focused on children. So now that Hans is 7, I'm asking, oh my God, he's going to be a teenager soon. What then? From that many list that I have on Project Hans now, because I could visit so many centers. So when he turns 12 or 13, now where do I send him? If I don't want to send him to a government school, right? And then there's also employability factor, right? So when it's time for him to go and get a job, what then? So that's the other thing. The other thing that I also struggled with a little bit is a lot of misconceptions around autism. So I know people mean well, and I love all the people who have been there for me and said the kindest things to me. But one of the biggest things that I find quite in this day and age, lah, the whole genius savant syndrome and autism thing is only 10% of autistic people that have that. And being a savant is not exclusive to being autistic, you know. Um, and I know people mean well when they hear someone say, "Hey, my son is autistic," they go, "Oh, like Cody Lee or like Greta Thunberg or like," and so I go, "No, right? Not like that, because it's a spectrum. No two people are the same. He may like banging around on the piano, but he's not Derek Paravastini. He's not a pitch perfect musician. So that's something that is also a bit challenging to explain sometimes. And another thing that I just want to highlight that it's not a challenge for me, but I know it's a challenge for a lot of other people out there. Is number one, adults who are neurodiverse and they are late diagnosed. They're only diagnosed as adults. Maybe like in my case, like I see all the signs in Haans and realize, hey, maybe I'm autistic too, which I don't think I am. But there are instances, I know of friends who've gone on to get diagnosed, people who have struggled their whole life and then only in their 20s and 30s get diagnosed with autism or ADHD or something like that. There's no support for them. And the other thing is girls. So we have a lot of, we constantly say that autism is 4 times more likely to occur in boys than girls. But how sure are we that these girls are really not autistic, or are they masking? Right, so a lot of girls go unnoticed as well. So that's another thing. So if you want a parent with girls to speak, let me know. I can get her to speak as well. So yeah, there's and another thing, I think it's so important to listen to autistic voices and neurodiverse voices. So I've been on Clubhouse, this app, for over a year plus, and let me tell you, I get a lot of very good information from neurodiverse adults. They are self-advocates. They are, so willing to share, very open to sharing, and I learn so much from them. And I think we need to make more space for these voices. So I would encourage My Story to get neurodiverse people as well to speak, because
Yeah.
I'm speaking from a parent's perspective. And yeah.
Yeah. We had recently Special Olympic Malaysia where we support
Okay.
adults. But like another good sharing from your side. This is the part where I talk about when I plan with parents. We have to have realistic concern. Okay. I don't blame parents to focus on academic, but sometimes there's life outside of academic.
Yep.
Uh,
Exactly.
other than go to school, but after that, what they gonna do? So this is like, I'm not saying not focusing academic is not good, but like what Miss Desiree shared as a parent, okay, she was thinking, oh, what happened if Hans is now 7? A lot of intervention focus on children, and then what happened when he's becoming teenager? This is realistic, okay. You take your child as a reference and apply it to your surrounding. Okay, and this is a very good, actually, a technique where it's evidence based. Okay, it's normal for us to have unnecessary concern, but we use evidence based. We have the child. Okay, definitely we will think, oh, when I'm no longer here, who will take it? Yes, but for now, as of now, we want to think the next step. Okay, it's not that we don't want to plan very far. We are handling a child with neurodevelopment difficulties where it's very hard to predict. Okay, and we want to know realistically, as of now, answer 7, how can we do that? Like in 10, 3 years time, 4 years time, he will hit puberty. So same goes to other parents. Okay, this is very important. This is how we can counter our negative thoughts. Okay, this is a technique they use in counseling or psychotherapy. We find something that is evidence-based and counter our negative thoughts, because uh, like Miss Desiree said, sometimes you wake up in the morning and say, I just couldn't help it. I just don't want to do it anymore. But this is part of the process, is how we can counter, or we can counterbalance ourselves in terms of emotionally. Okay, it's really good. She talked about like hitting puberty, and also, it's quite hurtful to hear misconception as well. And then, so this is I would say, legit stresses for parents. Okay, I mean, we are human. We can't help ourselves when we compare. Oh, my child can do this, do that. But realistically, please do see your child. Refer your child. Okay, see your child as evidence, and then uh, you try to apply it realistically and what you can do. Okay, and another one is financial. This is what I always tell parents: expensive doesn't mean it's good. Go by your means. Okay, if you really cannot afford, here I also work with parents, like we can utilize what the government hospital can work with. There's a lot of other choices, okay, from child to adult, okay, which is where it's friendly and whatnot. But the most important thing is, don't stress yourself just because you cannot spend what is best for others in here. You cannot do it for yourself. No, there's another way. Okay, some parents even share with me that they might not give enough love. It's not because they cannot give enough love, but it's about how do we apply this love. When we're dealing with children who are unique, we can't, like, I cannot show this love to this child. That doesn't mean I don't give enough. It's just that we have to modify and see how it applies. Okay, so this is very important and very good sharing from your side.
If it's okay, I'll just share that one slide I wanted to share in
Yeah,
case
yeah.
anyone wants to know how to get in touch with Project Haans and what it
Mm,
is. So here it is. Essentially, Project Haans is a website. It's spelled HAANS. We're on Instagram and Facebook, and the email address is there. And I know we are already coming up to an hour. It's just
mm,
last few things I want to say is what really got my attention just now. Charlie, you said someone who's neurodiverse told you that they feel disabled by the community,
yeah.
right? And this is, a lot of people ask me, why do you do Project Hans? Why do you do? And this is my why. My why is my son cannot change his brain. He's going to be autistic his whole life. And likewise, people who are neurodiverse, they can't change their brain. But maybe we can tell society, hey, why don't we make more accommodations? So this is why I do what I do, right?
Mm,
Having things like, I think we are moving in that direction. We have autism friendly malls. We'll be having autism friendly cities soon, right? There are a lot of initiatives happening everywhere.
yeah.
um, and another thing, I want to say is about the stigma where mental health is concerned. It is not wrong to get help, and as parents, if you need to get help for yourself, do it. Whether you tell people, don't tell people, that's up to you, but do it. I'm here to testify that I have gotten help for myself. I've worked with coaches. Who helped me to get out of this hamster wheel of trying to be the perfect parent. I work with Melissa Indot, who's a life coach. So she helped me. I've been on some of her courses, so she really helped me process a lot of things, emotions and all that, and actually prompted me to be more brave to speak. Otherwise, I wouldn't be speaking like this here today. And lastly, what I want to share is something that Ron Kaufman says. So Ron Kaufman is from the family who founded the Sunrise program, and he's also now doing something called Autism Crisis Turnaround. I'm not trying to sell his product, just saying that. So what he says is, we need to nurture our kids, and when we refer to kids as neurodiverse kids, we need to nurture them in a way that they understand that they're being nurtured, right? So because our kids or neurodiverse people, view love perhaps differently than how we do, right? So if my son likes flapping up and down, I'm going to flap up and down with him, because that's me telling him, hey, I love you, and he understands in a way that he understands, right? So nurture our kids and our loved ones in a way that they feel nurtured, not in a way that we assume they feel nurtured. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very good one. And also, we are towards the end of this awareness talk. If you have any burning desired question, if you're worried to contact a counselor, you can contact Project Hans. I do encourage all the parents who join us today, or when we share it out, if you have difficulty, please share to, like Project Hans. You want to talk to Miss Desiree, please feel free to, because I do understand, when you meet someone like a counselor, because we can see it in a lot of movies, where you lie down and the person talk to you, things like that, and then, like counselor deal with people who have mental difficulties. But but I do encourage, do please reach out, regardless of where you are. Uh, and if you're worried about financial, you can approach NGO, and you can go call up government. Yes, it's not easy to use the government website or directory, but if you require some legit uh, like identification of like not identification, registration of certain uh, perspective of professional, you can contact their association. Okay, if you like to know more about like the process as a parent, you can contact Project Hans, email them. Okay, if you're scared to talk, it's okay. I mean, and like us here in Mind Story, we do provide before you do any appointment, we also want to know more about your child. Okay, uh, so there's a lot of ways, but the most important thing, parents, if you do feel like someone as a parent who have the same experience and you feel like more relatable, then please do contact Project Hans, because uh, we are doing this to create a community towards awareness. Okay, like what Ms. Desiree said, that we want to nurture the child. Okay, this is the community that we want to grow. Because if you see both children in a kindergarten, when they play, they don't go, yeah, why you are like that? No, they don't do that.
That's
It's
true.
all,
They learn that from the adults. They don't learn that
yes,
on their own.
correct. You don't see 2, 3 years old going around, yeah, why are you like this? No, we don't. This is all from parents. So for having this, when the child are exposed and working with another child, they as they grow up, they do share the same perspective with others. So this is a chain. This is how we can help community. And for those who have financial difficulties, or you have difficulty coming out to seek help, please at least try at least one email or call, or whichever. There's a lot of NGO, but you're not sure which. You can check out Project Hunt. They have a list of a directory. They have a lot, and also you can check out our Mind Story Facebook page, where I personally will run a monthly talk like this. The purpose of this is to reach out as many as possible, and also to provide free knowledge, information, and education for community. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope to see you on the next workshop. And on behalf of Pine Story, we would like to thank you, Mr. Sari, for spending your afternoon despite all your busy schedule.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Until the next workshop. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.